Hello and welcome to France 24. Welcome for an interview with the President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. Mr. President, thank you very much for being with us today.
You're most welcome.
You're here in Paris. You attended a summit on the financing of African economies. But before we get to that, I want to get to an issue that's pretty much in the news. Sadly, I should say, the situation in Gaza, in Israel. I know you follow it closely. It seems the international community cannot do anything right now.
Well, the situation in Gaza is most worrying. We as South Africans are most concerned because the images that we've been seeing of people being prevented to move around, of their homes being destroyed, of people being driven out of their homes before they are bombed, of the Israeli soldiers manhandling people, brings back very terrible memories of our own history under apartheid, when people were moved, forcibly moved from their homes, which they'd occupied for generations, when their homes were destroyed. So this, for us, is very close to our own suffering under apartheid. And when we see those images, we can't but side with the Palestinians. Our support as a country for the Palestinians is based on principle. Palestinians want their own self-determination rights. They want their own state. They want to be able to run their own affairs and have freedom and not have to be restricted to move around. So the violence that has erupted in Gaza is most concerning. And we think the only way to deal with that is for both parties to negotiate. And we've been calling for a negotiated settlement. And the problem there might seem intractable. It might seem to be a problem that does not have a solution. But we were in the same position as South Africa. The whole world thought that the apartheid problem was unsolvable. But we were able to find a solution. We had a leader, Nelson Mandela, who was able to bring the two sides together.
But there's no Nelson Mandela over there.
But even if there isn't, you need leaders on both sides.
Is Israel an apartheid state?
Well, the way they've been carrying on, the way they've been denying the Palestinians their rights, the way they've been bombing the area, the way they've been unleashing terror, one could quite easily characterize it as being an apartheid type of state, because I have no other reference point to describe what the Israelis are doing against the Palestinians. But
what about Hamas sending rockets on Israeli civilians?
You could say that this situation has become a tinderbox, a tinderbox to a point where those who are living under oppression, those whose rights are being violated, feel that they have the right to defend themselves, and defending themselves mean that they also have to be offensive. And that is why we are saying both sides need to sit down and negotiate. And that is the only way. We were cast in the same mold when we were fighting against apartheid. When the ANC took up arms to fight against apartheid, we said that that is justifiable because you are fighting against an authority which was using both the law, which was using absolute terror against people who were fighting for their own rights. So the only solution in that part of the world is for both sides to settle down. And we are prepared as South Africa, as a nation that has gone through this type of situation to play a role through which we can help the two sides get together.
I want to get to the summit on the financing of African economy. The French president wants a new deal for Africa, essentially a lot of financial support, because in this pandemic situation, there's also a deep economic crisis. Has this summit achieved concrete results? And we know those summits, they're nice words. What about the deeds?
Well, I would say that yes, it has produced concrete results. We've come up with a declaration, a very balanced declaration that addresses the need for a new deal for Africa in terms of dealing with what COVID has done to our economies, but what COVID has also done to the health situation on our continent. And we address two issues principally. There's the issue of vaccines. And we've said that vaccines must be made available. It's unacceptable that only 2% of the people on the African continent have been vaccinated.
You've talked about vaccine apartheid.
Yes, that the West, the northern countries, have prepaid for vaccines, and they have amassed a lot of vaccines. They have a huge surplus, and we have no access. And that, to me, is vaccine apartheid. And it can also be characterized as vaccine imperialism, where the more stronger economies have gone out to mass buy the vaccines to the exclusion of the poorest part of the world that needs the vaccines just as much as those who live in the more well-endowed economies. And so we're therefore saying, and the summit discussed this, that the vaccine nationalism must come to an end. There must be equity in the way vaccines are accessible to all, because Africans' lives are just as important as Europeans' lives or American lives. So access must be open, and we will never be able to defeat the pandemic, COVID-19, if we try to defeat it in the northern hemisphere only and not in the south. It must be done all over the world at the same time. And that's where we say the surplus of the vaccines that the North has must be made available to the South immediately.
Will this happen?
We are saying in our declaration that that must happen with great speed. But we are also saying that we must be able to manufacture vaccines in our own countries.
That's been a problem, I mean.
In Africa. There must be capacity to manufacture vaccines, and that is why we have called for the World Trade Organization that the TRIPS waiver must be agreed to. We must be
the intellectual property rights for the vaccines.
Intellectual property rights.
Joe Biden, US president, is in support, but many European leaders are saying that's not the issue. Manufacturing capabilities is the issue.
It's a false argument. That is not the issue. The issue should be access to being able to manufacture, because once that access is given, we will then be able to gear up our own capacity. In South Africa, currently, we have 2 facilities that will be able to manufacture. But once the intellectual property is waived, we will find even more.
Are you confident it will happen?
Well, I'm confident because we've got now more than 100 countries that are supporting it. And we've been talking to the European leaders, and they are going to give it consideration. And I'm sure that we will be able to find a solution to this. And all we're asking is that the waiver must be done just for the period of the COVID-19, and it's not forever and in a day.
Are you entering a third wave in South Africa, and are new tightening measures on the horizon very soon?
Well, we've been seeing the emergence of what we think could be a third wave coming through. We're going to be watching, we are watching it very closely. If it comes, we are ready. We are gearing up a whole number of measures.
For new lockdowns?
Well, the issue of a lockdown is something that will only be looked at depending on the severity of the third wave.
Right. The French president is supposed to make a state visit to South Africa. We know there's a strategic partnership. Why is it so important for you to have him come to South Africa?
Well, President Emmanuel Macron has, amongst world leaders, demonstrated his great support for Africa.
Not only French-speaking Africa, by the way.
Not only Francophone Africa, but all of Africa, including the Anglophone Africa. And he has demonstrated this by speaking out in favor of Africa in various forums in the world, in the G7, the G20. And he's now convened this summit that we've just attended. That in itself demonstrates that you've got a leader in President Macron who is prepared to be innovative, to think out of the box, to come up with solutions and to mobilize help and support for Africa, knowing very well what colonialism did to Africa. So I think that endears him to many African countries, and that is why, in the case of South Africa, we believe that there's a strategic relationship between France and South Africa, and we therefore want to welcome him to South Africa. We got a number of initiatives that we've been working on.
Deals?
Which we will be able to announce. Yes, deals. Deals that have an economic dimension to them, but also deals that have a health dimension to them, but deals where we'll be able to promote the women of our country, the youth of our country, and so therefore we see him as a partner.
I want to get to your predecessor, Jacob Zuma. He's standing trial on corruption charges, especially for a deal with a French company, Thales. The trial has been postponed again and again. Do you think he's trying to escape justice?
Well, I don't think he's escaping justice. If he was escaping justice, he would have run away somewhere, but he's not. He is obviously trying to exercise his rights as a person who is accused.
He says it's a witch hunt.
Well, I think, you know, he would want to say that, but it isn't. He knows very well that our justice system is a fair justice system, and our democracy is a robust democracy that enables all these things to happen. And when one is found not guilty, it basically means that you're not found guilty. So there will be a fair trial, there will be a fair process that not only former President Zuma has to go through, but anyone who is found to be needing to go through a process like this.
He's also refused to appear before a commission, inquiry commission, looking into the so-called state capture scandal. He said, I won't go. Same reasoning. This is a political witch hunt. You yourself have appeared recently in front of that commission. Should he appear before that commission instead of saying, I won't go there because it's political?
Yeah. Well, the commission has asked him to appear.
He says, I won't go.
He has given his reasons why he will not go. And
are they acceptable, Mr. President?
The party that he belongs to has pledged its support to the commission, that the commission is what we called for as a party, that everybody who is called to go before the commission should go and testify to the commission. The matter now is before the courts, and I prefer to leave all that view and judgment to the courts.
You're going to testify again, I understand? Before
yes, I will be going to testify. The first time I testified as president of the governing party, the ANC, and I will now be going as a president of the Republic. I'll be testifying in my two capacities, firstly as deputy president, which I was, and now as president of the Republic.
Do you regret not speaking out more at the time when you were vice president? about what was going on?
You listen to my testimony when I go.
Just last question. I want to talk about, it's related, obviously, the dispute within the ANC. It's been out in the public.
Yes.
The Secretary General, for our viewers, Ace Magashule,
Yes.
has been suspended because he's himself facing corruption charges. He, in turn, is challenging this in court, and he says that you should be suspended and that you're going after him because he is siding with Jacob Zuma and that this is done to help your re-election campaign. What is your reaction to those allegations, serious allegations against you?
Well, there's no real substance to many of those things. I mean, it's a person who is himself facing criminal charges, who will seek to find ways to defend himself.
And attack
so
you.
There's, when you're president, you're attacked by anybody. I carry on with my work.
Will he be expelled from the ANC because of what he's doing?
That is not for me to say. He has been suspended. He's now launched a court bid, and the courts will be deciding on his own case, and the ANC will deal with his own case. So there are two processes at play here, the court as well as the ANC. So all those need to be taken. These are processes.
Will it come out stronger, just as a conclusion, from all those challenges, the ANC?
The ANC is committed to strengthening itself. When I was elected, I was given a clear mandate that go and unite the ANC and go and renew the ANC. So through all these trials and travails that we are going through, the ANC will come out stronger and even better, and we will even be more renewed and more united.
President Cyril Ramaphosa, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on the France 24 interview. And thank you all for watching this edition. Stay tuned for more news.